Clara had barely taken a sip of her morning coffee when the meeting invite popped up. One-on-one, 9 a.m. with Mr. Langford. Strange, no agenda, no context. Still, she grabbed her notepad and walked into the glass office with her usual grace. She had led the operations team for nearly a decade. Restructurings came and went, but she was always the rock until today. Langford didn't look up when she entered, just gestured toward the chair and clicked his pen nervously. "I'll get straight to it," he said, folding his hands. "The company's heading in a new direction. Fresh energy, fresh minds." Clara blinked. "Okay, what does that have to do with me?" He hesitated. "Clara, we appreciate everything you've done, but we feel it's time for someone with a more current approach. Someone younger, more aligned with digital trends." Her stomach dropped. "I've kept this department afloat through layoffs, burnout, and 3 system overhauls," she said quietly. "And now you're saying I'm outdated?" Langford gave a forced smile. "Don't take it personally. You've just lost a bit of your edge." "And who decides that? You." There was a long silence before he added, "Your exit documents are ready. HR will walk you through it. No thank you, no party. Just a cold dismissal like she'd never mattered." As Clara packed up her things, her team stared silently, eyes wide. No one brave enough to ask questions. She walked out of the building with her box in hand, heart numb but a storm rising in her chest. She didn't know it yet, but this wasn't the end of her story. It was only the beginning. Clara spent the weekend in a daze replaying every project she led, every late night she stayed back, every strategy meeting where she'd spoken up while others stayed quiet. It didn't make sense. Until Monday morning, a ping on her phone lit up. Congrats to Amara on her new role as operations lead at Stratascorp. Her breath caught in her throat. Amara, her younger sister. She clicked the LinkedIn post again. It was real. A selfie of Amara in her old office, standing next to Langford, grinning like she'd just won the lottery. Clara stared at the screen as her hands went cold. They had fired her to give her position to Amara. The same Amara who used to cry over rejection letters. The same sister she had coached through her first job interviews. The one who asked her to review her resume 2 months ago, and had asked oddly specific questions about her job, her team, her system logins. She thought it was innocent. It wasn't. Clara's phone buzzed again. A message from her cousin. "Wow, did you know Amara took your job? That's wild." Her jaw clenched. Not from jealousy but betrayal. She texted Amara. "Clara, you knew they were going to fire me." Amara read at 9:11 a.m. No reply. No apology. No explanation. Nothing. Clara's heart pounded. But she didn't cry. She stood up, opened her laptop, and opened the hard drive she hadn't touched in years. Her personal backup of emails, reports, and receipts from her time at Stratascorp. If they wanted to erase her, they'd have to try harder. Because Clara wasn't walking away. She was about to dig. Clara opened the backup drive with trembling fingers, half afraid she'd find it empty. It wasn't. Thousands of files blinked back at her memos, contracts, meeting notes, screenshots, years of work, all the late-night fixes, the undocumented procedures she created, and even confidential reports. Her manager had asked her to keep off the system because they were too sensitive. She clicked through the folders, each one a breadcrumb trail proving she was not only capable, but critical. And then she saw it. A shared folder labeled Leadership Transition Strategy. She had never seen it before. It hadn't been created by her. Inside were internal HR memos some dated months ago discussing her phase-out plan. A phrase repeated over and over. No official termination until replacement is trained. Her chest tightened. They had planned this. While she was training Amara on general corporate workflows, her own sister had been preparing to take her place. And she had handed it all over willingly. Worse, she found edited. Reports her reports with. Her name removed and Amara's added. Her words, her systems, her legacy, being overwritten like she never existed. She sat in silence, seething. This wasn't incompetence. This was a calculated erasure. A notification dinged. Subject, please join us in celebrating Amara's first successful client launch. Photo attached, Amara standing in front of a board Clara designed. It was the last slap. Clara stared at the screen, her rage sharpening into resolve. They wanted her gone, forgotten, obsolete. But they had underestimated one thing. Clara knew every weak link in that company. Every shortcut, every secret, every skeleton they thought was buried. And if they thought she would go quietly, they clearly forgot who trained the system. Clara didn't want to go, but her mother insisted. "It's just a simple Sunday dinner," she said. "Let's not let work come between sisters." Clara arrived late, hoping to avoid awkward small talk. But as soon as she stepped inside, the air shifted. Amara was already there laughing at the table, passing salad. Like she hadn't just stabbed her own sister in the back. "Clara," their mother chirped, hugging her. "Sit, sit. Amara was just telling us about her new office. Isn't that exciting?" Clara smiled tightly. "Oh, I know the office. I built half of what she's using." Amara's smile froze. Their brother cleared his throat. "So, Clara, what's next for you?" Before she could answer, Amara jumped in. "I'm sure something will come up. Companies need experienced people too, you know." Clara looked at her. "Don't pretend this was random. You knew they were firing me. You let me train you while you lined up behind my back." Their mother frowned. "Clara, don't make this ugly. It's not Amara's fault they saw potential in her." Clara blinked, stunned. "So I was what? In the way?" Amara finally spoke. "You were holding on too tightly. It was time." Those words burned more than anything. Clara stood. "Congratulations, little sister. I hope you enjoy the empire you didn't build. But just know what rises on a stolen foundation eventually collapses." She left without dessert. That night, sitting alone in her apartment, Clara wrote two names in her notebook. Langford, termination without cause. Amara, position acquired via internal conflict of interest. She stared at the names, not out of hatred, but to remind herself of the truth. They didn't just fire her. They awoke her. The next morning, Clara woke up with one thought burning in her mind. They didn't just replace me. They used me. Fueled by quiet fury, she returned to her laptop and dove deep into her archive files. She wasn't looking for memories anymore, she was hunting for proof. She started with financial reports, quarterly breakdowns, vendor contracts, and expense summaries. Most of it was standard, until she spotted something odd. A payment of $85,000, routed to a vendor she didn't recognize. Soltech Solutions. No address, no website, just a vague service tag, System Optimization Consulting. But Clara knew every tech vendor the company ever used. Soltech wasn't one of them. She traced the payment back to an approval chain signed off by her boss, Langford, but filed under her name. A digital signature she never made. Her hands trembled. He had used her logins to greenlight fake payments. Suddenly, it all clicked. Her firing wasn't just about age or making room. For Amara, it was about removing the one person who could connect the dots. She wasn't just outdated. She was dangerous. She took screenshots, exported copies, created a private, encrypted folder in the cloud. And as she worked, she spotted something even more disturbing. A new memo dated a month before her dismissal outlining a planned audit. Langford had panicked. He needed someone to blame. And who better than the outdated employee? Clara leaned back, heart pounding, eyes burning. They tried to erase her, frame her, silence her. But what they didn't know, she'd kept receipts. And now she had everything she needed to tear. They're carefully crafted, image apart, one file at a time. Clara had never expected to hear from Gerald again. He'd been let go 6 months before her quietly, without explanation. A long-time systems analyst who knew the back end like the back of his hand. Rumor was he left for personal reasons. So when his name popped up in her inbox with the subject line, "They got you too," her pulse spiked. "Gerald, saw your sister's LinkedIn post. I knew something smelled off. I didn't leave, I was pushed out after. I found out about Langford's off the books vendor list. I have records. You do too, don't you?" Clara replied immediately. They agreed to meet in person. No digital trail. At a quiet cafe, Gerald slid a flash drive across the table. Soltech isn't just fake. It's a shell company. Guess who it's linked to? Clara raised a brow. Langford. His cousin, actually. But the money goes through a shared account. I found the trail. He had me buried in legal threats when I raised it quietly. Now he's just removing threats before they speak. Clara inhaled sharply. I thought I was targeted for being old. Gerald scoffed. That was the excuse. You were thorough. That's what scared him. They clinked coffee mugs instead of shaking hands. A silent pact. Clara wasn't alone anymore. They created a shared folder, built timelines, labeled everything. Gerald even had archived Slack messages, some joking about cutting the older ones loose. Discrimination, fraud, cover up a perfect storm. Clara knew it was time to stop collecting and start exposing. Her sister may have taken her title, but Clara was about to take the company's crown jewel, its clean image. Clara wasn't ready to go public, not yet, but she was ready to stir the waters. She drafted a carefully worded anonymous email and sent it to the Sharp Ledger, a well-known investigative blog with a history of exposing corporate corruption. She attached only one document, the vendor payment trail from Soltech Solutions, along with a teaser. This is just the beginning. The full story involves age discrimination, corporate fraud, and internal cover-ups by executive leadership at Stratus Corp. I'll be in touch. She watched the email disappear into the digital void, then logged off. Within 24 hours, she got a reply. Let's talk. Strictly off the record. We're listening. Editor-in-Chief, The Sharp Ledger. Meanwhile, Clara and Gerald set up encrypted messaging and began constructing a timeline, falsified vendor payments, wrongful dismissals, and a breakdown of Langford's pattern of restructuring anyone who posed a threat. Every document, every Slack message, every manipulated report. By the week's end, she heard from a third former employee, Melissa, another manager who had been pushed out under suspicious conditions. Tell me what you need, she said. I kept everything. They were forming an army. Quiet, but steady. At the same time, Clara planted seeds within the company. She sent anonymous tips to the board. She leaked one harmless spreadsheet discrepancy to the audit committee. She triggered a whisper campaign not with gossip, but with facts. Langford started holding late-night meetings. Amara stopped posting. And Clara? She waited, because she knew what was coming. Not a war, not a lawsuit, a reckoning, one planted seed at a time. The story dropped on a Wednesday morning. Exclusive, inside the silent replacements and shadow payments at Stratus Corp. Byline, The Sharp Ledger. It was explosive. Screenshots of falsified signatures, payment trails to shell companies, confidential memos listing senior staff to be gradually cycled out, and worst of all, quotes from internal Slack messages marking dead weight and praising youth over legacy. Clara's name wasn't mentioned, but her work was all over the article. By noon, the company's PR team had issued a shaky statement. By 2 p.m., Stratus Corp's scandal was trending on X. By 5 p.m., the board had announced an internal investigation. Langford, suspended indefinitely. Amara, silent. Clara watched from a cafe window, sipping her tea, her phone buzzing non-stop with messages she ignored. Former co-workers, HR reps, and even her mother all stunned. Some angry, others apologetic. She didn't respond to any of them. That evening, her inbox lit up with a formal request. The board invites you to speak confidentially regarding recent disclosures. Your insights and records are of great interest to our ethics committee. She smiled faintly. She declined. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. She had reclaimed her dignity not with noise, but with evidence. With strategy. With grey sharpened into steel. They called her outdated, but their shiny replacements couldn't withstand one gust of truth. As the company scrambled to rebuild, Clara started building something of her own. Her website went live that night. Legacy unfolded coaching, advocacy, and consulting for women over 40. Empowering those told they're too late, too much, or too slow. The storm had broken, and in its wake, Clara stood not as a victim, but as a voice. A week later, the envelope came. Thick, embossed, official. It wasn't another offer for a private meeting. It was an invitation to an exclusive corporate roundtable sponsored by Stratus Corp. Board, rebranded as a workplace renewal initiative. They wanted Clara to sit on the panel, share her insights, and of course lend them her credibility. A tidy way to bury the scandal under good PR. Clara smirked as she read it. They didn't want her voice. They wanted her silence, wrapped in applause. She thought of Amara now jobless and ashamed. She hadn't spoken since the article went live. Their mother had called, asking if Clara could forgive. But Clara had already made peace with the pain. She didn't want revenge anymore. She wanted restoration, but on her own terms. That evening, she sent a short, pointed reply. Thank you for the invitation. I do not consult for institutions seeking image repair. I build new tables, ones where people like me never have to fight for a seat. Then she clicked send. Not long after, a different invitation came from a major podcast. Then a speaking engagement. Then a consulting deal from a global tech firm. Looking to reform its aging workforce culture. Clara accepted those because she wasn't returning to a system that failed her. She was redefining it. 6 months later, Clara walked into a conference hall filled with over 500 women, many over 40, many laid off or overlooked, but now filled with fire. Her keynote address was titled, "They Called Me Outdated, So I Updated the Game." She spoke of betrayal, yes, but more of reinvention, of the power in refusing to shrink, of leaving behind places that only valued you in pieces. At the end, she said, age isn't your flaw, it's your proof. Proof you've endured, evolved, overcome, and you don't need their seat. You can build your own table. The room erupted in applause. Later that evening, as she packed up her notes, her phone buzzed. A new client. A woman just let go after 15 years, replaced by someone younger. Clara smiled. She had become exactly what they tried to erase. A blueprint, a mentor, a movement. And in every woman she helped, she was rebuilding what they tried to destroy.